I will call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. And so let's, yeah, maybe move on to our agenda for today. So Betsy sent out the agenda. Number one is going to be introducing new members. Two is kind of approving the June minutes. Three is going to be discussing the survey results, and I think maybe Sean will take lead on that. Four will be discussing the Connecticut Economic Development Association best practices and speaking more on that. And then five and six will just be discussing maybe our 2021 goals and then maybe some updates and announcements. So I'm assuming there's no public comment, and so there's no need for that. I am
Correct.
seeing, okay, perfect. I'm seeing, yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, so then maybe introducing new members. So I see Robert is new,
Yes.
and I also believe there was I think eventually one day we'll meet a Scott and an Arthur as well. But yeah, Robert,
It's
I think
just
we're
me
all
tonight. Okay.
yeah, no, I think we're all happy to have you here. And yeah, maybe if you'd like to share a little bit about yourself, maybe like what
Sure.
excites you about Woodbridge, or
I'll
yeah,
be glad
what
to. My partner and I moved to Woodbridge back in 2009. Somehow, though, I still feel new, which is oddly doesn't really make any sense. I know. Um, and we actually found Woodbridge because the New York Times when we were looking for a place had if you're thinking of living in and had Woodbridge, and it looked so interesting. We came down here and just kind of loved it. So that's why we moved here back in 2009. And today, and since then, actually, I run the account operations and technical accounting for an insurance company in Stamford. So that's my day job and my home job for the past year or plus.
anything that excites you about maybe participating on the EDC or anything else,
Yes,
yeah, that you think may be
absolutely.
relevant?
During COVID, I watched a lot of Channel 79. You know, our
I
and
hear you.
I watched your meetings, among others, and TPZ as well, which was fascinating. But I really was intrigued by what the purpose is of the EDC, and I just got interested and thought if I can contribute in some way, I'd really like to. I mean, I've always had higher hopes for the sort of business side of Woodbridge, and so I thought this is a way to do something for the positive for the town and also connect with an interest of mine.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, thank you.
Yes, welcome. Is it Robert or Bob?
Robert is usually what I do.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome, Robert.
Thanks.
Toby, I do notice there's somebody on the telephone. I don't know if that was
Yeah.
is
It
somebody
might be
with a
Scott.
public
Scott said he was going to call in, I think.
who?
Scott.
So the attendee that you're seeing is Nancy,
Oh, it's
who works
Nancy,
for Government
actually.
Access TV. So she's recording the meeting.
Oh, okay. I just wanted
Got
to
it.
make sure it wasn't a
Oh,
missing
Thanks
public
for
comment.
No, that's
No,
what I thought
monitoring
because
it.
I saw that as well. It's a good point. Yeah, so maybe then we'll move on to reviewing and approving the June minutes. So we had a special meeting June 10th. Basically, it sounded like the commission, from what I gather, I wasn't there, but from what I gather, it sounds like we decided on the way that we want to maybe communicate the survey results and maybe present the information. And so maybe I was hoping or wondering if maybe for my edification, since I was not there, if someone maybe could briefly share some key takeaways from the last meeting. I know maybe Sean will cover this in more detail later.
I think that the agenda is just to approve the minutes and move on.
Yeah, okay. I don't see a problem with discussing maybe briefly, very briefly, what happened in the last meeting. But if that's not something that we can do, then sure, happy to move on.
Um, well, we started going over the survey. Sean made some great graphs that presented the stuff differently than the survey company's graphs, and it was easier to understand. And he's going to keep working on, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean. And we talked about goals and the CDAS certification process, and that was pretty much it. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, to my recollection, that's accurate. Just a side note here, Scott he just emailed me, said, is the WebEx open? So whoever's moderating,
I just resent him the link. I saw the email also,
great.
so
Okay.
hopefully that'll help him get in.
Cool. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I was also wondering if, so I'm assuming, okay, so yeah, maybe then I'll approve, we can improve, but I was also wondering if there were any outstanding concerns or like anything unresolved from the last meeting that maybe needs to come up during this meeting.
I think it's all on the agenda. I mean, you guys,
Mm.
Sean or Debbie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, I think we're good to go. I'm just, I'm having trouble getting in on my laptop. I'm loading some kind of update or extension, so I'm on my phone, but I'm here.
All right,
Thank you.
perfect.
I move
So-
to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Yeah, I'll second.
I'm an I. I don't know if I'm in order. I'm I. Approve.
So Toby, normally, when a motion's made, the chair is supposed to ask for comments and then a vote. So there's probably no comments and then you can call a vote.
Yeah, sure. So it sounds like you made the motion and it sounds like Sean seconded. And it sounds like everyone was in favor.
Yes,
Yes.
in favor.
Okay. And we've already discussed, so there is no additional discussion.
Correct.
All right, so maybe then moving on to discussing the survey results. So yeah, Sean, whenever you're ready.
So
Hey,
Sean, I
guys,
just,
I'm on the phone with Scott right now, and he's trying to get in. Hang on, Scott. So,
Yeah, I don't know why the WebEx app on my phone is working, but the WebEx app on the laptop is not. He might want to try a
yeah, there
different
was an
device.
update,
so,
and I know it's
so one of
caused
our
some
other-
problems for some people.
Sorry, Robert. We're usually a smooth
Oh.
machine here.
I've seen your meetings, so I know. I know.
thank you, guys. Sorry for the hiccup there, but I know Scott's eager to join. So he's gonna try on his phone right now.
Great.
All right, so I'm sorry, Toby, you passed the ball over to me for the analysis, right?
Yep.
All right, let's see here. All right, I'm sure, does everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. So, just to recap a bit, so we had survey findings, from the spring. There was a canned report that came back from the survey vendor, and we wanted to take an opportunity to make it a little work on some data visualization, make it a bit more presentable. So this is my attempt at that. So let's go through. So we have a summary here. Spring 21, we conducted the resident survey to collect the information about what kind of businesses we'd like to see in town, consumer habits, business occasion frequency. Seemed to me there was kind of a focus on cuisine restaurants, and then and then businesses most likely to patronize infrastructure assets and leisure activities. I remember Debbie making a suggestion that we should, make a point that this was conducted during the COVID pandemic, and that obviously or naturally excuse people's responses. So I added that note. And this slide I showed to you folks last month. I made some edits, and some of the edits didn't carry over, so frantically I was trying to go over to the new deck. Anyway, so this is how often do you eat out or get takeout? So the charts are arranged in order from the least less frequency to the most frequent. And we wanted to point out the gaps between folks going outside of town and within town, and that's what I'm displaying here. I'm sorry. This work. All right. So between once a week and 2 to 4 times per week, we see some potential opportunities for stores that are in the the restaurant and or food takeout business. Overall, I mean, we can see that 5 times a week is very low percentages. So I have some edits to do here to represent the spread between the points. Does anybody have questions about this slide?
This is Betsy. I think it looks great. I think that highlighting that difference really makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that was I recall if I remember correctly, it was Debbie and Cleo making that suggestion. So yeah, I just have to update the data labels here. And
Yeah, I think it looks great.
All right, great.
Great job.
I'm not gonna go any further on that, but I mean, the takeaway here, which will be displayed by the data labels, is that there could be some opportunity for infrequent to moderate dining, either whether it be dining in or taking out. So question 2 was kind of a bear to handle because this was an open-ended question. What types of cuisine restaurants would you most like to see in Bridge? We had over 300 responses. Well over 2/3 of people actually did respond, and I broke all of the responses out into piecemeal, and there were, I remember correctly, 517 different types of cuisine / restaurants that they wanted to see. So I did my best at segmenting them. I've got 24 different groups here.
I love it. It looks great.
Great.
I agree. I think
So-
it also shows that people just want anything.
Mhm. Well, actually, there is a bucket for any type, and that's right over here, 2.9%.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it looks great, and I love an infographic with colors. I think it's so easy to understand.
Yeah, it's super helpful.
Where did the? I lost.
Thank you for taking the time on that.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, yeah. Before I left work, I actually did have some details about what the all other revolving around ethnic and other Asian. That's not to overlook those details, but there were a significant number of responses that just said ethnic and as well as other types of Asian. I did provide some detail and some data labels that they didn't save from the last version, but and then I have a note down here at the bottom, and there were some interesting verbatims included in those open-ended responses, and several of them said, not a chain, trying to stay away from, franchises, especially around the, the coffee cafe, type of business. People looking for high quality and good quality, and no more Italian.
That's funny.
and then,
Was
and then-
considering Italian was a pretty big box.
well, yeah, so I mean that, and yeah, it is. So that's just, kind of speak to the diverse types of responses that we're getting. And there were several verbatims that said better than insert name of existing restaurant, and I didn't feel comfortable about writing those down. But a pie chart definitely would have worked for this because we couldn't get it down to
Enough slices.
all right. Does anyone have questions about this? No?
Yeah, it looks great. I did have a quick question. So,
Okay.
and this question might not be applicable to this because I think maybe this slide is only for question 2, but I did remember reading 250 respondents said that they would patronize bagels or a bakery, and then like 189 respondents said they would patronize specialty food. And so I'm wondering, yeah, how you think about that as it relates to maybe this slide, or is it maybe somewhere else? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, yep, that's
Okay,
where that
perfect.
is. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. This looks great.
Yeah, so going in the order of the questions, let's move on to question 3, and that's how often do you frequent the Woodbridge Business District for the following? There's 2 views for this, which came out of the discussion from last month's meeting. So this is looking at the occasion by frequency. The next slide will kind of flip it and look at it by occasion. So what I wanted to point out here is that the lower frequency instances are the higher numbers for the retail, eating out or takeout, and then the personal care and services. So I label that as infrequent shopping, dining, and care/services. And then over here we look at passing through. You see a significant portion of people that are just passing through Woodbridge frequently, and then for work, that's a large share of folks that actually don't even go to the business district, for anything that's related to their work. If you can then somewhat keep that in mind and look at it this way, this is flipping it, and then we've got the frequency along the x-axis from never to 5 days a week, meaning the business days. Over on the left-hand side, we've got less frequency, where with the majority of the types of business mainly being the retail shopping, eating out, and the personal care professional services. And then if you can somewhat juxtapose that next to the people who actually are driving through town, they're passing through. So we're getting the traffic. They're just not, going to the businesses, for one reason or another. So there might be a better way to tie these 2 slides together, or I guess, yeah. So if anybody has suggestions about that, I'm welcome to hear them.
Okay, can I throw out a question to you about the term Woodbridge Business District? Is that exclusively the area that is within the border of Woodbridge, or are people including, we have New Haven, and businesses across the street are in New Haven? Are they part of this survey, or were
this is straight up Woodbridge, only businesses within Woodbridge. And
Yeah, but I think a lot of people misunderstood, because when they answered it, clearly they assumed Stop and Shop was Woodbridge.
right, which it's of course not.
Yeah, that's
it's not. Yeah, that was what I wondered. Are you looking at the bigger area, or are you trying to only look at Woodbridge, and did that come through? Okay.
I think we defined it as Woodbridge, but we got a mixture of answers, so it's hard to say.
Got it. Okay.
Do you guys agree, Sean?
Yeah, yeah. All right, does anyone else have questions or thoughts about these two slides? Okay, all right, let's look at question 4, and this is which 5 businesses would you most likely patronize if they open in Woodbridge? And this was a lot of conversation we had about the the coffee shop and the bagels and bakery. Those are the large share of the respondents. So this is interesting to me because as I was looking at this question and its responses compared to the question that was dedicated solely towards restaurants and eateries, this expands that beyond into the other categories, and we do see some other business categories beyond eating. So the food and the grocery are up here, and I grouped I teased out the other responses because there was 20% for that, and I had a note for the other, and there's some interest in small grocery marketplaces. Second was flower garden shop. Third was a bookstore, and then fourth was restaurants. And then everything else beyond that was pretty disparate, so I couldn't really segment that out.
I think it's interesting that the top 5 are all food related.
Right. And these and Betsy, I believe these categories we picked these up from another similar survey that was done on this topic.
Yeah,
right?
so we started with a survey that another
Right.
town had used several years ago, and we whittled it down significantly. But I
Right.
think we added a few things to this list, but it
Mhm.
was something that someone else had started with.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, several of them are food themed. So.
I would say, oh, go on, Sean. I
No.
interrupted you.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I would say to Betsy's point about the top themes being food themes, that, and to your point, Sean, that might be an opportunity because because I know, like, for instance, like we have concerts on the green and like Woodbridge, like we definitely obviously have a lot of like nice hills, not a lot of open land. And I know people like to hike and spend time outside. Respondents like to hike and spend time outside. So I wonder maybe like what kind of foodie events we have that maybe incorporate, I don't know, some of this data here. But yeah, maybe that's an ongoing conversation, but just a thought.
Okay. Does anyone else have thoughts or questions about this? Okay. All right. Let's move on to.
I just think it's interesting that so many people want bagelry when there's at least 2 places in town that sells fresh bagels. So it sounds like it's a marketing problem with those places.
Who sells bagels?
That was on my mind too, actually.
Katz supposedly has very good bagels.
They're not fresh. They're not. Katz's does have good bagels. They're not fresh homemade though.
But we love all our Woodbridge businesses equally.
They are. We just bought bagels from Katz's. They're excellent, but but it's just to clarify, they're not homemade on site. But they're New York bagels. They get delivered fresh.
Okay. And who's the second one?
Well, then I guess that eliminates all. I mean, I know that Meat Market and Blue Check have bagels, but they're not baking them there.
Great. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Gotta go downtown to Olmo.
Or over to AM Bagel. We went over there. The line was out the door.
All right. Well, Cleo, you might have found a consultative side gig, perhaps. I don't know. Let's go. Let's look at question 5, and this is which business district infrastructure assets would you most like to see developed? And this is a rank choice selection. You know, we've background on this. We've had a lot of discussion about this in terms of the wayfinding signage is something that we've been talking about. Also, there's a lot of discussion or a lot of requests by word of mouth for sidewalks, things like that. And then also from my work with zoning board of appeals, there have been some projects proposed that would have added some sidewalks to some of the commercial zoning area. But anyway, so across the x-axis, we're seeing the first choice all the way down to the seventh choice. I'm focusing the takeaways here, obviously, because the top 3-4 choices, that's what's likely the most items that folks are most looking towards. The sidewalks, again, first choice, more than half, that's what people are looking for. Followed by Wi-Fi. Interestingly, none of these is the second item in the first choice. So I made note of that, and we need to we should explore that further, see what's behind that. But as you can see, it's commuter parking, the wayfinding, and Wi-Fi are the major assets that residents are looking for.
I don't know how relevant it is to include 5th, 6th, and 7th choices.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can top that off and throw that in an addendum. Sure.
Yeah, although I do, appreciate you being exhaustive and comprehensive, but yeah, to Cleo's point, that makes sense.
All right, that's a good suggestion. Sure.
I really do like how you visualize this slide because, I mean, just looking at the data itself, it isn't quite as easy as what you've done here.
Right. Cool. All right. And then the question 6 was the final question that actually was had some was substantive. So this is the leisure activities for households, and this is, I guess, to be informational for potential business owners. I don't know. I don't think there's really a lot to take away from this in terms of findings. Although, I mean, we see cooking is number 1, and I guess that probably ties into the folks looking for places to eat and places to take away food. Hiking, that's natural because Woodbridge has a tremendous asset with our land trust and hiking trails, music, concerts, and shows. So a lot of outdoorsy stuff. Leading the responses. So I wanted to keep it concise, not make it too lengthy. So what do you guys think?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think so too. Can you go back to that last slide?
Sure.
So 27.69% of people participate in camping. Maybe we need a legal campground in town.
Or a glamp ground.
Listen,
That's
I camped in my backyard with my son because we didn't have an opportunity to get away and like threw up a tent for a couple of nights.
Yeah, no, a lot of people do that. Girl Scouts, we do backyard camping too, but
Mhm,
that's really interesting.
mhm.
Although maybe one thing to draw everyone's attention to, these percents are out of the people who responded to the survey, not actual Woodbridge residents in total. So, like for instance, like that, yeah, like for instance, like I don't know the exact amount of respondents, but that might be something to keep in mind as well.
Yes.
It was 317, I think, right? Is that what it was?
That sounds about right. And I think you said that that was statistically significant.
I'm pretty sure I lost access to my survey software, so I plugged in some rough numbers into that test online, and yeah, it said it was about like 90% significant. I was hesitant to denote that in the analysis because again it's but I think it's
How many, I'm sorry, how many respondents?
317, right? Let's see.
I
So
know it's
that's
more than
almost 10,
300.
so that's give or take 10% of our households.
Yeah.
So I think that would be enough to have validity.
Yeah, 317. Yep.
Oh, so quick question: does the 317 represent 317 households or people? Because Woodbridge has like a population around 9,000. So just
Mhm.
to be clear about this.
Let's. Uh,
Yeah, you can make assumptions either way. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's individual respondents. I didn't. I mean, the IP addresses are recorded by respondent. I could take a quick look to see if there's any duplicates. I doubt it. But I can definitely take a look at that. Sorry, I was laughing, but I had a bad flashback to the town budget call that we had, where that was an issue.
Not at all.
John, these are just Woodbridge residents, right?
We assume.
Yes, I mean, yeah, I mean, this was provided by a link via the website and some. Betsy, was this included in some of the town newsletter emails or no?
It was. So it was in communication directed toward residents, but
Yeah,
certainly they could have shared it with someone from a surrounding town. There was no way to
right.
prevent, a Hamden or Bethany resident for taking it, but I don't know how motivated residents from another town would be to take the
Right.
survey like this.
Yeah.
So it is most
Sure.
likely
Those
Woodbridge.
darn Hamden residents coming into our
Right.
surveys,
Skewing our data.
skewing our data.
How dare they?
It's always Hamden.
So yeah, I mean, technically we can't say that, but I think
I think we feel
with
confident. that
confidence,
it's-
I think we're pretty certain that yes, we don't have folks from outside the town that are trying to skew our data.
Betsy, I was wondering, do you think that that Sean's kind of work will go up on the website, or do you kind of maybe see him like presenting this to like larger groups, or or what do you view as maybe next steps? I mean, maybe
think that's
this
a
is just a group
question-
question too.
Yeah, I think it's a question for you all. I mean, we had talked at some point about sharing the data with commercial realtors and commercial property owners so that they could use it when they're talking to prospective clients. I could talk with the Board of Selectmen and see if it's something that they would be interested in hearing. Not sure, there's not a whole lot that they could do about bringing, say, bagels or an ethnic restaurant to town. But it might be something that they'd be interested in. Or we could put it on the on the town website and share the link out, because Sean had also mentioned, it's always important to report back to people. People who took the survey are probably curious to see the results.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sure.
What do you all think? I mean, where would the data be most useful?
Well, I think we should send it as a report to the Board of Selectmen. And then I think it would be great, yeah, to have these graphs on the website. That's it for me.
Okay.
Yeah. And obviously, right, I think maybe that as we get more information that like this will expand and like it will probably be updated. And so I imagine this will be an ongoing conversation. So
Yeah,
it doesn't have to end today is punchline.
no, yeah, I mean, I mean, if we could add some kind of a, longitudinal type of component to this, that would be fantastic. Okay. So does anybody have thoughts about any sort of edits or glaring things that might be missing?
Did we talk about having a page with some of the
Oh, you mean like an executive summary? Yeah, I mean,
no, but also summarizing some of the additional comments? Remember we had like 73 comments that Betsy circulated? That was the open-ended, please share any additional comments to help the Woodbridge EDC.
oh, okay. Yeah, I think I might have missed that one.
Yeah, so I don't know how we can,
I don't have them with me, but I think I have notes back at the office about some of the common themes that came through that.
yeah,
So I could take a stab at that, Sean.
All right. Yeah, all right.
yeah, just some bullet points of what some of the ideas were.
Yeah, okay.
I think there were several things that came through in multiple comments that had kind of the same tone or idea.
Right.
Mhm.
And some of them are repetitive of the other section too. Local coffee shop, a real coffee shop.
Yeah, so, yeah, I apologize because after that question about whether you're a business owner and interest, I kind of sometimes I interpret that as being the end, and it ended up in that last question. All right.
I mean, I
so-
think your PowerPoint did a great job of summarizing most of the data. So
Here, here.
Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing then. All right.
maybe so one thing that I wanted to maybe bring up, and right, I think Sean and everyone else who contributed, although it sounds like it was primarily Sean, did a really good job making the deck. But I am kind of wondering next steps. To Betsy's point, what Betsy brought up earlier, when we were kind of discussing maybe Sean presenting the deck to like the first selectman, for instance. Betsy did say, and I don't exactly remember me. So yeah, let me know if I'm not, I'm paraphrasing, but Betsy was basically like, yeah, not 100% sure if they could bring, like a bagel shop to Woodbridge. And so again, like I just maybe I think it might be useful for us to have like a conversation around like, well, what can we actually do with this information, or like how could we make this information more, I guess, decision useful? Like for instance, Betsy, if for the first selectman or that group to use this information, like what else do we need and what does that mean for our effort or even, yeah, just, yeah, how do we want to push this forward and actually do something with it?
I think Jeremy had mentioned also getting it in the hands of the commercial brokers because they're the ones bringing businesses to town. So making them aware of the survey results. So if we print or have a digital PDF available, then we could email it or distribute it to the commercial brokers in addition to the Board of Selectmen. I would feel more comfortable getting the Board of Selectmen to okay that first. They probably have to. I mean, I don't think we can just send it out on our own. I think at least somebody in town has to okay it before we distribute something like that. Am I correct, Betsy?
Well, it's a public document, so if we put it on the website, we could certainly share it with them.
But is it appropriate? Like, I'd hate to be a selectman and find out this stuff is being distributed without knowing about it first.
Right, and the board meets next week, so I could share this version of the PowerPoint with them. I could put it in their packet so they have time to review it, and I could go through it, you know, kind of at a high level at their meeting next week so that they're keyed in to what you all have been working on. But I agree, I think it would be most effective in the brokers and commercial property owners' hands. And I think residents in town too. I mean, if they have a business idea, it would be nice to see that, you know, their idea would be popular with residents. I feel like that might give someone a boost of confidence to take that next step.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do agree with Cleo that if it gets presented to the Board of Selectmen, we just kind of get a stamp of approval before it gets disseminated out in a larger fashion.
Well,
And also getting, oh, Sean, go on.
what
Go
I was, I mean, you know, taking a step back, you know, I think it's, uh, it's, it can give, give, the community some, some peace of mind, knowing that, there is some, work being done, towards these efforts, because if you, read a lot of, comments about what's going on in town, and it's like, there's a consistent theme of like, what's being done to, help business. So, I mean, this displays the effort, from a big picture point of view. And then, I've mentioned this in the past, and, we've kind of, paused on it, obviously because, I mean, by and large because of COVID, but the tax abatement proposal that we had, and this could possibly be a good tool to accompany that.
It's a good point. I would quickly also say that, and Betsy could probably speak to this, and the first selectman could probably speak to this better than I currently can, right? So I'd hope so. But also, right, the abatement is our town effectively giving businesses money. So to the extent that COVID's affected the town situationally, it also might not be the case. Like our town might not be in the best situation to provide that tax abatement. Just a thought. But yeah, just a thought. Although obviously I'm very excited about the tax abatement and the opportunities it can generate.
Okay.
I would also quickly say, yeah, Betsy, also, I asked the question again, but I did hear like your comment about commercial realtors. I do want you to know that, because I just wanted to kind of expand to see if there was anything else we could do with the information, just to be clear. I do know Scott hopped on, and Scott, we did kind of welcome some of the newer members. And
okay.
so, yeah, if you'd like to maybe introduce yourself as well, I think
Here,
that'd be great.
sorry, I'll turn my camera on for all of you too, if I can. All right, there we go. Sorry, I'm actually on my phone tonight, and I'm down in Atlanta, so it was a little to meet everybody. Just really, interesting listening to the survey results and everything. Okay, what was the charter? What were we trying to accomplish with the research?
Is everybody else seeing the lag on his?
Yeah, we're getting every other word.
Yeah, Scott, there's a big lag with your video coming across.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. Maybe
Is the audio okay?
that's a little better.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. I want to see if I.
Well, that's good.
Oh, the audio
That's
is
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
audio's
much
good.
better.
Wow.
Yeah, you're saving some bandwidth there. Go ahead with the audio.
Apologies again.
That's
So,
okay.
just as I'm looking at the research, I'm trying to back into sort of what the objective was here, who the audience is. I'm kind of taking away. We're looking at how do we promote Woodbridge to businesses, commercial real estate brokers, right? More than say developers and like any type of new real estate, right? It's like within our existing confines, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And the one thing I would say, I had a question around, are these just Woodbridge, right? May be powerful to see who we could draw into Woodbridge, maybe from surrounding towns, versus looking at these opportunities as just like, this is what Woodbridge could support. I mean, there are limited numbers here to begin with, right? So if you were to include some of our neighboring towns, like 3 to 5 mile radius, perhaps, it might give you a little more scale as you go out and pitch that it's more than just Woodbridge proper, which is town, but our access proximity to Westville, obviously Bethany, Hamden, we talked about to draw folks into Woodbridge potentially.
Mhm.
And you might get some very different results here. Just knowing that demographically things could be different, but that's just me sitting here trying to listen all together. So
Well, that's a good point, Scott, because I read a number of reviews, on the open-ended, where people are just like, meh, we don't need anything here. We'll go to one of the neighboring towns for what we need. So like, if you just completely, flip that around and invert it, then, you look at the surrounding towns and what could they see as something that they would like to see in leaving their town and being a shopper in Woodbridge. So yeah, that makes sense.
right.
Scott, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly because I want to make sure I understood your point. So were you basically saying that it might be helpful for us to like survey other towns or survey the residents of other towns, or I just want to make sure.
If you were to maybe, from a geographic standpoint, look at a 3 to 5 mile radius around Woodbridge, just to see who else you could bring in. I mean, ultimately, we're looking at how do we bring more revenue into the town, more tax base, right? And to think that we're going to be able to just do that within the, what did we say earlier, 9,000 folks in Woodbridge, right? That may be a tall order for what we're trying to accomplish. And look at our neighbors over in Orange, right? They're pulling people in from other towns. They're pulling folks from Woodbridge over there, right? Folks in Derby, they're pulling people from Woodbridge into these towns, and that's how they're generating that tax base. So that's the only thing. And I think Woodbridge is kind of unique if you look at it. All right, these are the preferences for the folks that live in our town. You may get some very different responses and interests if you were to expand that a bit.
I think it's a great idea because, right, like, yeah, to your point, if we could also, even by surveying the other towns, we can get a sense of, well, what are their gaps? And so what opportunities does that maybe represent for us here in Woodbridge to maybe attract more people? So yeah,
Mhm.
great point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other examples we look at locally where, hey, they seem to have really cracked something, right? I know for me personally, I look up at Oxford and what they have going on up on 67, right? That's one that has always jumped out at me, and just
Quarry Walk, right?
Quarry
It's
Walk, yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that why doesn't Woodbridge have some? Now there's a ton of development going on there, right? And there was a huge vision for this is going to be residential and commercial and retail, and um, so those are just some initial thoughts that I have.
So if we decide to do a survey again, we could consider that. But one other thing we can reference is the regional economic development resources, because they do their annual submission of their strategic plan, so they've got a lot of data about the region's economy. So we could also use that on a bigger scale. I don't know if we want to repeat the survey to the larger area right now, or how we'd even go about that, but because it would probably involve buying a list of names.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't want to. there's not going to be a room in any town's budget for finding a vendor to do that. But I mean, perhaps we could, reach out to other towns and see if we want to kind of go at it with a group effort. If we can then identify, segment out groups of questions that are important to surrounding towns and organize it as such, and then you can group your respondents by what town they reside in as well. I don't know if anything like that's ever been done before, but
Well, you may also have data out there, like you're about to put this survey out on Woodbridge's website. Is there information like that on other town websites already? I don't know, obviously, but just
good point, Robert. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we could cobble. If we could take a look and see if there's other stuff out there, and then cobble something together. Sure.
All right. Well, if there
having this-
may be, go on, Scott.
Thank you. But having this on the website, it seems to me, is very valuable because, as a business owner, when you're researching localities, when you want to expand, something like this is a very valuable resource. Just getting it into the hands of commercial brokers doesn't help us anywhere near as much as getting it into the hands of the business people that are actually making decisions as to where to go next. So I think the website is the first thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, Paul.
All right. Being cognizant of time, I think maybe we should move on to the best practices portion of our agenda. But maybe just to quickly summarize, I think a lot of important points have been brought up, and I think this might be worthwhile to discuss at our next meeting. One, in addition to, right, like maybe finding ways to share this with commercial realtors and putting this up on the site and getting feedback from the selectmen as well, selectmen, selectwomen as well. It also might be useful to think about, can we find the equivalent of our survey like on the websites of the surrounding towns around Woodbridge? And then if not, yeah, to the point that was made earlier by Cleo, are there kind of regional economic resources we can rely on? And if none of that is the case, then yeah, a survey, to Scott's point, might actually make sense. But that's, I guess, an ongoing discussion. But yeah, so best practices.
So is Betsy gonna present the PowerPoint to the board at the Board of Selectmen meeting next week?
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Do we need a motion or can we just agree? I don't know.
I don't think you need a motion. If you guys feel like it's ready, I'm happy to do that. And I think the only change we discussed was adding that series of quotes, and that's probably something I know I don't think I'll have time to do that before Wednesday, but we could present, I could present what we have and add the selection of quotes for the final version that would go on the town website, if that's okay with everyone.
Okay with me? I
Yeah,
think-
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, let's not delay any further.
Okay, great. Well, then I will add this to my report for Wednesday's meeting.
Great.
So for the best practices, this is the Connecticut Economic Development Association's best practices program. They started this in 2019, and it was a way to recognize towns that meet certain criteria, both regards to economic development practices and also zoning. Their website promises that the 2021 application will be up by spring. Obviously, it's not there yet. I've reached out asking to see when they think they'll have it ready. I have not heard back yet. I understand that the copy that I have, which is from 2019, is going to be changed somehow. So we went through the 2019 application at our last meeting, and probably half of the things I couldn't answer because they relate to zoning. So I met with our zoning enforcement official, who also works with TPZ, to go through the current version of the application. And I would say that probably 80% of what is in here to be considered best practices are things that we're already doing. There were a few things that I'll add to the website because they're done if people ask. But if you don't know to ask, then why would you ask? So I'm going to add a few things like the availability of pre-application meetings for people to meet either with the zoning commission or staff prior to going to a hearing if they want to get feedback on a project to see if it would probably need approval or if it needs a little more work. And a couple other sort of procedural things like that. But other than that, we're sort of in a holding pattern to wait for the new application.
Okay, I don't think we should waste any more time on it, given that situation.
Yeah.
Can I ask one quick question about the organization? I went to the link, followed the link, and it looks like they have a 2-hour training. The Connecticut is offering for economic development commissions to kind of show them the best way to approach their role. Has this group ever done that training?
We did one it's been quite a while. I want to say it was 2015,
Okay.
possibly. And leadership at CEDAS has changed since then. So I'm not sure how or if the training is different. At that time, they had us invite people from a variety of boards and commissions to come and talk really high level about how everyone has a role to play in economic development.
So you were there for it. Was it not sort of very meaningful in the way that you'd say, oh, it'd be something to do now, or
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't
it wasn't specific, like,
exactly, and there
Okay.
weren't specific action items to follow through on. So it was a great
Oh.
high-level conversation, but then that was it.
okay, thank you. That answers my question. Appreciate it.
Betsy, quickly wondering, so do you have materials from that 2015 training that maybe we could disseminate to the larger group? So at the very
I'd have
least,
to look. I don't remember, because it was a PowerPoint they did. It wasn't anything that we did. So I'd have to look and see if we have it. But it was mostly data, so it would have, all the data would have changed, you know, census data, data that, you know, Clea was referencing from the regional SEDS, that sort of thing. So all of the data would be at least somewhat different by now.
Their website has links to current data too, from what I remember from today, looking at it after you sent that
Okay.
out. So again, it might be something useful for us to mine if we're trying to mine information about the area.
100% agree. Yeah, I think maybe quickly, and this was just like top of mind for me. I think, right, Economic Development Association, they're specializing in best practices at the municipal level. And like, yeah, focusing on like and emphasizing that improvement and making sure that those best practices are standardized. And yeah, to Betsy's point, because I did look at an old deck that we do have. I think it's like I don't know. I think it's an annual update outreach session deck or something like that. Rex development that Betsy had sent me. And I did see a lot of data. So I know like one hope that I have would be like as a group that we kind of better at a shared level get an understanding of what exactly are the best practices and how can we like implement them or be thoughtful of that as we're continuing to think about ways to promote business or to diversify the tax base or research business conditions and things like that.
Yeah, well, actually, a couple of meetings ago, again in COVID, while I was watching, I think you brought up, Toby, the idea of having an EDC onboarding package for new people so that they wouldn't just be starting from zero. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm remembering it incorrectly, but I thought you did.
No, yeah, I did. Yeah.
I actually personally started putting together my own just by digging around the net and our website. So that's something I was going to bring up, but I guess I'll wait until it's appropriate. Would you guys want me to try putting something together? You know, maybe getting some help from Betsy to do that.
Yeah, Robert,
I'd
that
love
would
to
be
help.
Yeah, Robert, that would be great. Especially because Scott asked me for that the other day, and and I haven't been able to help him out yet.
You know, my folder on my desktop is growing with things that I think are relevant. So I could bring it back to the next meeting as a here's what I found. And you know, again, I might ask for Betsy's help to find some things that I couldn't find on my own, and we'll see if that's useful information that we could kind of build a library kind of for our, you know, members.
Nice.
I mean, I
great.
don't think to recreate the wheel too much because Betsy does have knowledge of or has already compiled a lot of that stuff.
Oh, great! That if it was accessible, I'd love to get. Then let me talk. I'll reach out to her after this. How about that? Before the next
Definitely.
meeting. Okay.
Yeah, and I think maybe like the underlying point that Robert's kind of, I think, hitting at, and that I think I would wholeheartedly agree with, is just making sure that across the board, all of our members have access to all the information that they need to competently do what they're volunteering to do, and making sure that over time our members become more competent, or at least like that our capability to bring our members up to speed increases.
Sure.
Because I think a majority of people who do join this commission, or really any commission, want to try to make a difference. And I certainly don't want people getting frustrated because of maybe that infrastructure not existing in some way, shape, or form.
Great. Well, if you're all okay with it, I'll take on an attempt to do that again, checking with Betsy about what exists and see what we can come up with.
Great.
That's great.
We've got a 60-day gap to the next meeting, right? So there's
Yeah.
some time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm not commuting anymore, so I have 3 hours a day extra, to
Oh,
play with.
You need to fill
lack of
that time.
commute is lovely.
So, Robert introduced himself earlier, and I think Toby was trying to ask Scott to give him his own background for the rest of us, because we don't know, or I don't know anything about you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. And hopefully I have a better connection now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
So
loud and clear. We hear you fine.
you can hear me fine. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
My background. My family and I moved to Woodbridge back in 2013. So we've been 8 years back here. I'm a Connecticut native. I grew up in Bethel, and came out of my undergrad at Northeastern. Went to work in Milford for BIC, and also for Schick in marketing capacity. I'm like 25 years consumer products brand manager, marketing geek, and then had a big change about 2 years ago and invested in a few Supercuts hair salon franchises here in Connecticut. So acquired 8 of those, opened a 9th one in Derby, and I'm a franchisee of Supercuts hair salons, and you know, really love that change. Got me a lot closer to Connecticut, to a lot of our different towns, basically everywhere from Orange all the way up to Putnam, down to New London, and up in the Hartford area as well.
That's
Great.
really cool.
Interesting.
I'm from a big family, 35 years. My father worked there.
Oh, really? You know, Bruno
Wow.
Bick just passed away.
Yeah, it was their
I think-
family
and-
friend.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they Bick. That was how I got my start out of undergrad.
That's
with-
great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's great to have an entrepreneur, so to speak, on the
So to
EDC.
speak. Exactly.
That's right.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe the rest of us should introduce ourselves, because the new people don't know who we are. So, I grew up in Woodbridge, and I lived in New York for 15 years and came back after I got married and had my first child, and I've had a combination of jobs between public accounting and corporate accounting, and now I'm executive director of Science Park Development Corporation, which is economic development in New Haven of the old Winchester Firearms Factory. So I've in the past I've been on Coopop when I first came back to Woodbridge in 2003 or 4, and 2 years ago I joined EDC.
Yep.
Someone else? Debbie? She's still here?
Yeah,
No,
you-
Debbie left. I'll go next. I'm a lifelong Connecticut resident. I grew up in Milford. Let's see. In my early 20s, I joined the Air Force National Guard. I was in the 103rd Air Control Squadron in Orange. That helped me pay for my college education. I graduated from WestCon with a degree in economics. Shortly thereafter, I got a job in sales. After a year or so, I realized I was not cut out for that. Found out that I enjoyed working with numbers and spreadsheets and such. I got into market research, knocked around consumer goods for a while. It's something I have in common with Scott. Great Recession hit. I worked in insurance for a bit, and then after that, I went to beverage alcohol, and now I'm an analyst at Yale, working in the Office of Development, which does their fundraising. And I also serve the town on the zoning board of appeals. And I have 2 young children and Mag.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Toby.
Betsy, you gonna introduce yourself?
Toby. Toby, it's your turn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sure. So my name is Toby Wangu, full name Tobena Wangu. I've lived in Woodbridge my entire life, born and raised. Joined the EDC, I believe, in 2019. Went to university in Virginia and did some education in Connecticut as well. Background primarily in investment analysis, and yeah, and really looking forward to seeing ways I can contribute. So happy to be here.
I think that covers pretty much. But Betsy, I don't think you need to give us your background.
I think she's part of the team, but okay.
I'm certainly part of the team. I
But my background is irrelevant. However, we do have a new Board of Selectmen liaison. Paul Kyriakos is with us tonight.
right. And Paul, you used to be on the Board of Finance, correct?
Yes, I was. I was on the Board of Finance, I think, 6 or 7 years. So hi, everybody. I'm Paul Kyriakos. I've been in Woodbridge since 2010. We raised our 2 children here who are 22 and 17. And I've loved every minute of it. My background is I was an IT person for about 25 years in the corporate world, insurance companies, market research companies, variety of different corporate environments. And about 10 or 12 years ago, my wife and I started dabbling in real estate, which turned into a business, and that's what I do today.
Right. Cool. Thanks, Paul.
Maybe to be cognizant of timing, maybe we should move on to the last, I think, agenda item, which was discussing our 2021 goals.
Sure. Do we have, Betsy, what we've discussed so far?
So we've been batting around the idea of marketing, but not kind of who we're marketing to or what we're marketing. We've been talking about what to do with the survey results, which I think we sort of finalized tonight. And then I wanted to throw out the question, and we don't have to make a decision tonight. You know, in the past, we've done happy hours to provide networking opportunities for local businesses. And pre-pandemic, we had also talked about trying to host a commercial and industrial development realtors meeting, maybe take them on a tour of our properties, or just have a meeting in one location to go over some of the opportunities here in town. And I don't, you know, it's hard to tell how people feel about doing things in person. Some are all for it, some are absolutely not. But I just wanted to throw that out there as a thought.
That's in the.
I mean, to that aspect of, you know, how people feel about doing things in person, I think hopping on that sooner than later is probably a good thing. While people are, you know, the people that are willing to do that are kind of chomping at the bit for that, and I think we can possibly capitalize on that. And then for the people who aren't interested in it, then I mean, they're, you know, you're not going to get those folks anyway. So.
And if we did a happy hour and we did it before it got cold, we could do something outside.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other thing I was thinking about, the, you know, the seasonal component of it as well. Yeah.
I had a quick question, and this is not, to be clear, this is just me wanting us to make maybe some things that are maybe implicit more explicit, especially considering that we have newer members. So regarding like the happy hours and regarding, right, hosting that kind of realtors commercial industrial development meeting, so how do we envision that, like promoting the development of business, or like allowing us to diversify the tax base, or like conducting maybe research into some of the business conditions that exist in Woodbridge, or like how do we envision basically using that to do something impactful or meaningful?
Well, I think in either scenario, a happy hour or a realtors meeting, I think using the PowerPoint that Sean created would be important. And if it was a happy hour, it could be really brief, but making sure that people are aware the data exists and it's available to them. Jeremy is actually a part of the commercial and industrial development realtors group. I'm not sure what it's actually called, but they do meetings in different towns, and I don't know if they've been here recently or not, but if they haven't, it would be nice to share that data with them and see how else we could get involved. Maybe we could do a breakfast, or I'm not really sure.
Right now, are you guys soliciting ideas for longer term goals? Is that the section of the meeting you're in right now? Just to be sure I'm understanding what's going on.
Yes.
I actually, if I may, and I know I'm brand new, but I've been musing about things, and I may be being naive, but can I throw out a couple of questions just to see if,
Please.
okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I've read the 2013 Village of Woodbridge Development Concept Plan, which, I think is on our website. I've read the 2015 Plan of Conservation and Development, and both of them have what looked to me like lots of opportunity for projects that would certainly promote economic development in Woodbridge. And they're everything from sidewalks, as was noted in your survey, to other physical projects in the town area. Has this group ever considered kind of looking at those plans and kind of mining out, creating a hierarchy of potential projects that would, and then deciding on what's impactful, what's not? And I know everything costs money, so then my second point was, is there anybody in the Woodbridge Woodbridge employees who are grant writers who look for state and federal funds to implement projects like that we might be able to attract money for? Has that ever been considered as a thing we might do under economic development?
I don't think that we've looked at the POCD or the 2013 plan recently.
Okay.
As a group, at least. I am involved in grants, and we do, excuse me, we did just apply for a state DOT grant to, excuse me, to add sidewalks to the west side of Amity Road. Currently there's sidewalks on the east side going from Bradley down to Lucy. And these would put sidewalks on the western side going from Bradley down to the town line with New Haven.
But that sounds great. And that's actually a perfect example of the kind of thing I'm thinking of, but really done with a coordinated eye toward a larger goal, of making the downtown more attractive to business.
Right.
And we've got the plans actually have a lot of information and suggestions from urban developers, designers, about what we should be looking at for that. That's why I'm asking.
Rob, it's a great question and it's a great idea. Would you be able to send the group the PDFs or the links as well, just so everyone has?
They're all on the Woodbridge website.
They are, but they're all not in one place, which is why it's going to be part of the onboarding package proposal I'm going to give you guys. Yes, it will include those, for sure.
So
Take the words right out of my mouth, Robert. Thank you.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Betsy, most of us are newer members of EDC.
Yes.
But I have the impression from our predecessors from a few years ago that they did spend a lot of time on the POCD and reading that and understanding the study from Yale and all that, and certain things were prioritized and certain weren't. So I think it's a great idea because it's a new EDC and we need to consider all these different, especially the POCD. That's what we're supposed to be basing our strategy on.
Okay. Well, again, I'll definitely make sure those are in there. And I read in the CT Mirror today that Connecticut has $240 million more for communities this year than in the current budget that just passed. So that's why I was kind of thinking, is there a way we can get a share of that? and grants. They're
Yeah.
why not try if it's not naive? And you guys have been doing this for a while, and I'm brand new to it and have never done that. So
Yeah, no, I'm wondering too, because of all the infrastructure money, how does Woodbridge get a piece of that
Right.
action?
and particularly if those plans give us a project that we can almost pull right out of the plan and say, hey, let's do this one. So that was the kind of thing I was hoping we'd do. Okay.
Mhm.
And can I ask then one more question, and it's in that goal zone, but do you ever consider yourself sort of ambassadors of development to work with developers and commercial landowners? It sounds like you do, to encourage projects in Woodbridge. Do we actually solicit developers, and try and push ideas to them ever?
That's mostly done through the, excuse me, through town staff, through the first selectman's office.
Okay. But that is happening. Okay.
To a certain extent, yes. There's very little land to be developed in town.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was going to ask you about, because that's what I can't see is what's available really and what's already developed, and so
That would be great to have sort of a lay of the land around what is to be developed, right? So you can have some sense of, are we working from within the existing footprint per se? And is that really the charter here, right? How do we develop the existing business zone within Woodbridge? There's a larger zoning, obviously, question involved, but just to get a little context at our goals.
Great. Well,
Right.
super.
One thing I wanted to just throw out there, so I don't know, and if this falls within this group's purview, but one example I think that we may want to look at is, I understand Nevco is potentially going to leave, right? Leave Woodbridge, and what role does this group have in saving them, identifying an alternative, right? Is that outside of the scope of this group, or?
It is only because it's about negotiation. And so the first selectman has had many meetings with them to talk about potential locations in town. And part of the problem is there's very little land in town that can be commercially developed. And so there just aren't a lot of options. But those conversations are certainly happening.
Yeah. Okay. So not something that this group would be involved with then.
No, just because it's much more of like a higher level conversation about what the town can do, and it's a little more sensitive, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But is there? Well, I mean, to just elaborate a little bit on, what Scott just brought up. I mean, is there a way to possibly share thoughts that might have stemmed from brainstorming to help that along, and not to hurt us in the process, but just to, again, try to come up with other ideas to open it up to try to help that happen, because me personally, and I think it would be a tremendous loss for Woodbridge to have them go somewhere else.
I think we're all in agreement that we want them to stay.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else?
Well, it's 8:26. The meeting was scheduled to be from 7 to 8 p.m. I think we've all donated this commission 26 additional more minutes. I have enjoyed this conversation. I think I think we have stuff maybe to discuss at our next meeting. And so I mean, I don't recall seeing anything else on the agenda. I think we did open the floor and we did maybe talk about other relevant stuff.
Are there
But
any-
so
Are there any updates from Betsy?
that's true.
I don't
Or-
have
or-
anything directly related to EDC. There's a couple events coming up. The Friends of the Library are holding their book sale this Saturday as part of the Second Saturdays series. We've got a concert in the Business District on July 24th. It's a swing band. And there's a local dance studio called Simply Dance that's going to act as the opening act. They're dancing at 12:30. The concert's at 1. It's on the lawn at Coachman Square, and the goal is to draw more foot traffic down into the business district.
How did the first one go?
It was okay. I think there were probably, I only was able to stop for a few minutes, maybe 100 to 200 people there. Jeremy spoke really briefly in the beginning to welcome everybody and kind of
That's
thank
great.
you,
There
Y,
were
for
that many
sponsoring.
people there.
Yeah, it was, it's hard. I'm not good at numbers, and it was a large lawn and people were spread out. So I could be wildly off. It was also just kind of like a gross, muggy day. It wasn't really hot, but it was muggy.
Right.
So I'm hoping for good weather on the 24th. The stores across the street at 245 Amity are all doing sidewalk sales, so I hope they see some traffic from it. And Saloon is doing a lunchtime deal as well.
Great.
That's all I've got.
I move to close the meeting.
I'll second.
Awesome. Well,
Right.
yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet everyone.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Welcome, Scott. Take care.